Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Unused Substitutes podcast with myself, Stephen Wright. And for this very first episode, I'm joined by none other than Todd Weedon, the other man in the logo. Todd, how are you?
Yeah, good mate. Nice to be brought to life in logo form.
And we've got Dan Davis here as well, who's sadly not made the cut,
Not on the
but
logo. Yeah, yeah. We've got some need to have some words with you about that.
maybe if you
Disappointing.
win the sweepstake and you could spend some of the money on
I'm
investing
out. I
yourself
think
in
I'm
that.
am I
Yeah,
not fully out?
Dan's the only one out of the eight
I'm
of
the
us
first
not
one that's
made it
crashed
into
out
the last
entirely.
eight teams.
Oh
Is
dear.
anyone surprised with the teams? I mean, we could talk about that later, but with the teams that I got saddled with, an absolute stitch up, I'm not too
Well,
surprised.
the place that I want to start actually is by asking Todd, how was Avril Lavigne?
Yeah, she was really good actually. Surprisingly so. I've went back to sort of my teenage years, and yeah, it was a good gig.
50 years ago.
Supported by Simple Plan as well, so a nice little throwback there. But yeah, in a castle as well, so you can't get better than that gig in a
Cardiff
castle.
Castle. Yeah, Greg James had her on the radio this morning. Complicated. I was singing on the way to work in my car. Absolute bangers.
I couldn't go too loud yesterday. I needed to save my voice for the important stuff like this podcast. So
You
Be
suck
kind.
up.
As that's why he's in the logo.
And I'm not.
As
I don't have that commitment, that level of commitment you'll not get from me. That's why.
well, as for you, Dan, I have to ask, how is Toe Beans? And who is
Toe
Toe
Beans
Beans for the majority
Toe
of them?
Beans is my cat. He's about to be 4 months old. He's a ragdoll kitten. He's very sweet. He's doing well. Yeah, he's already got much bigger than I thought he would. So the first week he was quite tiny, and now he's just shot up. And he basically owns the place. Obviously, he doesn't pay rent, but the place is basically his, to be honest. So he just gets free reign. He's doing well. He's had his first vaccination recently, which he hated us for, but all is forgiven. So we're kicking on, moving on together as a unit. He's doing well though. He watches the football too. Actually, he likes the football.
And he has a official Instagram account as well that people can follow.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I think it's Toe Beans. I take no credit at all for the captions or basically anything for that account because I don't have the creativity to do it. But yeah, the Adventures of Toe Beans plastered on Instagram for all to see. If you want to go check out the link, it's a shameless promotion that, but there we go.
Well,
Got to
anyway,
be done.
believe it or not, we are going to be a football podcast. There aren't enough football podcasts in the world. We thought we'd fill that void. So, yeah, I mean, we'll start with the obvious place, really. This is taking place between the round of 16 and the quarterfinals of the Euros. So, yeah, for a bit of context, me and Dan support in England, and Todd is a German supporter. So, Todd, we'll start with you, the host nation. How do you think Germany have been getting on? You must be pretty pleased with it so far.
yeah, I think the run up to the tournament actually there was not a lot of optimism, certainly in Germany, and I think results hadn't been overwhelming, shall we say? Sort of changed a bit in March. Nagelsmann brought in a few new fresh faces, beat France, and I believe Holland as well in the build up, and I think suddenly there was a bit of optimism. Um, I was hopeful for maybe a quarter final at the start of the tournament. We're now at that stage of the quarterfinals. We've played quite well. Sort of come unstuck a bit against Switzerland, which at the time I wasn't overly happy about. But looking at how they performed and certainly knocking out Italy, I don't want to be too cliche, but it does look like they could be dark horses of this competition. So actually, on reflection, it was probably a good result to get the draw. But I think obviously we've got a tricky tie coming up against Spain, and I want to be the optimist, but I think the realist in me says that this could be the end of our tournament. I'm obviously hopeful not, but I think Spain have looked the informed team of the tournament so far.
Did you describe Germany as dark horses there?
No, Switzerland.
I was
Sorry,
going to
Switzerland
say.
were the dark horses in my eyes.
So you think, obviously, you want them to go all the way, but you think that Spain is going to be the end for Germany.
Yeah, I just think the way that Spain have played, and I watched their last 16 match, and I mean they played Georgia, who, let's be honest, didn't have the highest expectations, but played particularly well in this tournament. But the two wingers, is it Lamine Yamal? Hopefully, I've got that right, and and Williams on the other wing. They're just the pace and trickery. I fear the German fullbacks are going to be a little bit overwhelmed with that. And Nagelsmann's played around with Mittelstadt at left back and David Raum. He doesn't seem to know his strongest option, and I fear that we could get taken advantage of down those fullback positions.
It's nice you have a left back. I'd say that.
I was going to say, Dan, what have you made of Nagelsmann's side?
I've been really impressed. I don't know performance-wise whether or not it ties up to what I'm about to say, but I quite fancy Germany to win the whole thing, to be honest. And Todd and I spoke before about, I thought, quarterfinals as well. I think we were both quite underwhelmed with how they're performing. Like, preparations before the tournament weren't brilliant. Nagelsmann definitely hadn't settled on, the best setup or the best group of players to pick. And it's all come together at the right time, to be honest. I think the way that they move the ball, the press is brutal. I think it's the best press in the tournament that I've seen. Really effective. And he's a brilliant tactician, and it shows. It really does. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily equate. You could be a good tactician and not generate good performances from your team on the international level. Sometimes it works that way, but Nagelsmann has done it almost faultlessly, to be honest, the way that he's transformed that team. So I've been really impressed, and I cannot wait for the Spain game. I think it's going to be so easy on the eye. Two amazing teams playing slick, fluid football. I hope they don't cancel each other out when it kind of gets bogged down a bit. I don't see it that way. I think it's going to be two teams going hammer and tong. I think Germany will edge it just on, I don't know, like they've got a bit more of a clinical edge for me, I think. But I think it's going to be a great game. I really do. I'm equally impressed by both teams, but I think Germany, for me, will go all the way. And that includes at the expense of England. Should England obviously get to the final, I think is where they would meet potentially.
It's true, though, that like the Turkey and Georgia and those sort of games have kind of generally been more exciting than the big teams facing each other. You expect like the most exciting games, and they turn out to be a bit boring to watch sometimes, don't they? But
it's been a tournament for the underdog, really, isn't it? You've had a lot like Georgia beating Portugal. You've had a lot of teams punching above their weight, and they deserve a lot of credit for that, because I think this was a tournament where you had France and England, their favourites by far and away, and actually France and England have been quite poor to watch, to be honest, very poor to watch, in fact. And there's been other teams that have put on a bit of a show, including the underdogs. So I was really impressed with Austria, to be fair, until last night's game. I thought they steamrolled Turkey, and I jinxed it, obviously, as I always do. But teams like that, where they're like better because of, like, they're sort of the sum of their parts, I would say, rather than one outstanding player. Like Georgia, for example, have got two like brilliant players. We've got one on the front line and the goalkeeper as well, but they play seamlessly as a team. So that for me has been the standout part of the tournament, is watching teams playing well above the level that people probably expect them to play at, because they're working as a unit. And I think that's really refreshing to see.
It's funny you touch on that, Dan, because I think my favourite game of this whole tournament has been Austria 3, Netherlands 2. I thought it was such an end-to-end game, and both sides really sort of going for it. And yeah, for me, that's the standout game so far.
It's almost like Ralph Rangnick actually knows what he's doing. Like he had the spell at United where he tried to instill some high pressing football, and he got laughed out the door, but it turns out actually he did know what he was doing, funnily enough. So that he deserves credit for Austria got some good players again, but the level that he elevated them to also shows that he's one of the very, very good managers at this tournament.
we do have to talk about England begrudgingly. They have been very hard to watch throughout the whole tournament, pretty much. I was fortunate enough for the last game to watch it from sunny Spain, so at least the weather was nice, and I had a Guinness in hand at Irish.
Very nice.
The Blarney Stone. So shout out to that one. But even then, very difficult to watch. Yeah, I mean, what have you made of England? It's, if you go all the way and win the tournament, then who cares? But
it's knockout football, so it's just about winning your games. It's that simple. In the group stage, you can afford to draw a couple. I think 4 points is enough to get you through. England went through with 5. For me, it's the results speak for themselves. Like, they are progressing. They're in another quarterfinal under Gareth Southgate, so that is just a fact. However, I have been ripping out what remains of my hair because, like, the players that team have got, the squad is absolutely stacked to the brim with superstars, top class, elite professionals. And they get on the pitch and they play like they do not know each other. Like they do not know where they're meant to be going. It's like they have no set routines, no patterns of play. It's, individual moments of brilliance and a few little passes here and there. And you go, oh, like a little flicker of brilliance. It's just so few and far between. Yet somehow they are still picking up the points and the results to get them through. The problem is, and I've been saying this since the first game of the tournament, is if they do not improve in the next game, they will go out. It is that simple. The Slovakia performance was bloody awful. And I tell you what grinds my gears quite significantly, to be honest, and still now, is you had Jude Bellingham, England's golden boy, obviously coming out after the game and saying he felt like some of the criticism from the fan base after that performance is like having a dig at the players, and he seemed to think it was a bit unnecessary. That's just not the case. It was such a poor performance from the majority of players on that pitch. Like the result doesn't really, it's that classic like papering over the cracks thing, isn't it? It really, really is. It was just blunt. It was boring. It was insipid, to be honest. England would have gone out if not for that moment of brilliance and overhead kick in the last minute of stoppage time. Like, come on. Don't get me wrong. Celebrate the goals like crazily because, of course, like I bet you did, Steve, in Spain as well, charge around the pub or something. But it doesn't make up for the performance.
Shouting who else in the pub in Spanish,
just like him.
Yeah.
Did you whip out the Bellingham celebration as well in front of the TV?
Yeah, no, just hola and por favor.
I bet the missus enjoyed that.
Well, she, when we went 2-1 up, thought that it was a replay of the first goal, and it was still wondering why are you celebrating?
Because they looked the same, didn't they? Like, and the two different goal scorers. Interesting. But yeah, I was really disappointed. I want so much more. You won't hear me complaining if we win it, put it that way. But on this current level of form, no chance. Has to be so much better.
Yeah.
Anton, I bet you're laughing your head off.
It's funny. I think like when you touch on the style of play, and I don't know, like obviously I watch a lot of Bundesliga, and a lot of teams in the Bundesliga play that same way, and it's still sort of the gegenpressing sort of style. And I think that sort of runs through different leagues. You look at Spain, and I know obviously they're moving away from tiki-taka, but there's a clear defined strategy that not all teams will play, but it's kind of entwined in their DNA. I don't think you have that in England. I think obviously like you have the influences from sort of Pep, Arteta that are trying to get that more progressive sort of style of play going in the league, but you also have a lot of sort of managers that are a lot more reserved, and it almost looks to me that there's a team that have got their own styles of play, but when they come together as a nation, they can't quite make it click, and half the team's trying to play forward passes and the other half of the team aren't reading them because they're so used to seeing a sideways pass go, and it's almost like they haven't used that time in training to kind of go, look, this is our defined strategy. And it does look like 11 individuals running around. And I know, obviously, like I think you touched on it earlier, Dan, like I think a lot of that changes if Luke Shaw comes back in. Like he gives that side so much more stability down the left. And I think he will allow Foden to play with more freedom. And I think in turn that changes the whole dynamic of the England squad. But yeah, it just for me, it seems that, like you say, they're almost scraping around trying to wait for that bit of moment of magic that they got from Bellingham, and for an England side that were, let's be honest, favourites to win this tournament, to come into a 95th minute equaliser against the Slovakia team. It's, don't get me wrong, if England go on to win the tournament, no one will remember that slog of a 94 minutes. They'll just remember the Bellingham goal and all will be rosy. But for the football purists and for the people that analyze these games, I mean, it's a horrible watch, isn't it?
It's funny you say actually about like the identity that's missing from the team, because obviously a few years ago, the FA really pushed this like England DNA, like this is what we are, this is how we'll play across every age group. And I think that was pushed quite heavily by Dan Ashworth when he was in his role with England. And it's, in previous tournaments, like, yeah, I don't necessarily think we've had like the most amazing identity, but you can see what we're trying to do. Even like, 2022, for example, you could see elements of what Southgate was trying to piece together. But this year, it just feels like, you know, tactically, technically, the wheels have come off. And I do not get, and I don't think the players get necessarily what they're trying to do. Like, there's no, what is the plan? Like, are we pressing? Are we sitting? What are we doing? It's like we're stuck in the middle, not really knowing what to do. We're sitting in this really deep block in our half when teams had the ball. So, for example, going 2-1 up against Slovakia, we spent all of extra time, other than obviously celebrating Harry Kane's goal, just sitting deep in a block. But what really, really got me is how easy it was for Slovakia just to play passes through the lines anyway. They were just punching holes through the middle. And you go, well, if you're sitting in a deep block and you're not tight enough to prevent teams doing that to you, why are you sat in a deep block? So that's a problem. And the left side as well, I would definitely agree with Luke Shaw, that balance back. You've got Trippier, who is doing a job in a position that he's not comfortable in. Clearly, he keeps cutting on his right foot. So every time the ball goes out to him, teams are showing him inside because that's where he's going to go anyway. It's not a problem. He can't get down that touchline. And then you've got Foden, who doesn't get chalk on his boots anyway. So you've got no width on the left. So it's really lopsided. You've probably seen something similar, Steve. And it just makes me want to rip my hair out, to be honest. It's so annoying. But are the fixes that easy?
But just on Bellingham, I mean, I love his confidence. You can call it arrogance. It doesn't really rub off well on some people. I think he had brilliant sort of PR, if you want to call it that, going into the tournament, and some England fans maybe not liking it too much. But Todd, as a Dortmund fan, do you remember there being ever this kind of dislike towards him, or has he always just been a hero, really?
I think the boy's become a man is the easiest way to say it, and I think like he didn't have that level of arrogance at Dortmund, because I think it's kind of come with the prestige of playing for Real Madrid, if that can be said. Like, I think you've got to go up a level when you play for a club like Madrid. There's less pressure on you at Dortmund, and obviously he was a standout player. And it's quite interesting, actually. I've seen the Dortmund fan side of it on social media. He was very, very well loved whilst at Dortmund. Obviously, even when he left, there was a lot of sort of fans. He went with everyone's best wishes. Social media could be quite a toxic place. A lot of fans didn't like the way he acted around Marco Reus's departure. I think a lot of players sort of wished Reus all the best. There was not a word from Bellingham. Whether something was said in private, we won't know that, but there was nothing publicly said. And I think Dortmund fans jumped off the back of that. Then obviously with Madrid beating Dortmund in the Champions League final, some viewed his celebrations as a bit of disrespect towards Dortmund. I mean, from my point of view, the lad's 21. He's just won the Champions League. He's going to be excited. He's going to celebrate. Unfortunately, I think in that scenario, niceties go out the window. You don't always think, oh, well, these are the players that I've played with that have lost the final. So
Yeah.
Again, I think like he's got every right to sort of act the way he has. And unfortunately, Dortmund fans don't like that. I think now what you're seeing with it on a main stage of a Euros, you are seeing that sort of confidence come through. And like you say, people are looking at it as almost arrogant. But if he's scoring overhead kicks in the 95th minute to essentially put England through in the long run, then why shouldn't you have that
Yeah, it's an English thing, isn't it? Where we want a world-class player. We never really have the best players in the world, but then it's all of a sudden we don't like if they're not like polite and humble, and obviously they're going to have
That's the
an
problem.
ego.
Like the media, and critics, fans, pundits do like to drag down our players when they're at the top of their game if they see one thing they don't like. And social media is so reactionary. Like Bellingham's gesture he did after he scored the goal that he might get a ban for example. He says it was directed at his friends. Other people would seem absolutely adamant it was not. It was disrespectful. And it's like, well, we don't know the full story. It's just any excuse to drag him down, really. Todd, it's interesting you mentioned about, the love that Bellingham had at Dortmund, because the reports that came out at the time, and there are still whispers now, were that players at Dortmund were quite happy to see the back of him in the end, because the rumours are that he was seen as being quite arrogant in that dressing room with a lot of teammates. They viewed him as being quite moody. He obviously had the captain's armband, and they didn't quite seem to think he had the character to live up to that at times. I remember he ripped into one of his teammates. He said, like, "You're effing star." I'm not going to say it because I don't want to ruin the podcast with explicit language already. But he ripped into him, and that was reported at the time. So I think you are seeing traces of a young man with the world on his shoulders and the world at his feet, but there are a lot of people starting to warn him, and I don't think it's a problem at all. But there are a lot of people starting to warn him, saying, don't drift down the path and just becoming arrogant and rude and cocky unnecessarily. Like, the kid knows he's good, and he's bloody good. He's world class. And I like to see a bit of fire. Like, what's wrong with that? A player knows he's good. He's confident. He comes up with these moments of brilliance, and he knows he's good. What's the problem? Like, he produces those moments. Let's not drag him down just because he knows he's good. It just seems a bit stupid.
You are right, Dan. Like, he did cause a bit of a rift in the Dortmund dressing room, but I think actually we look at it as differently as fans. Like, those players were underperforming. They did need a kick up the backside, and I'm not ashamed of someone that comes in, be 20 years old, 30 years old, or 40 years old. Like, if they come in and they drag players up to their standards, and that's what I think the fans viewed him as doing, was he's got his standards, and if other players around him aren't playing to those standards, he tries to drag them up. Now, like you say, other players might not like the way he does that, and it may rub wrong with them, but I think from a fan's point of view, they loved him because it was like, this is my performance and you should all be at this level with me.
Well, let's hope for a better performance against Switzerland, obviously, something a bit more exciting and interesting. And if England do deliver, then perhaps they'll have been inspired by Ed Sheeran. Have you
I
seen?
think it would have been sent to sleep by Ed Sheeran. That's such a Southgate thing. Like it's like a David Brent move, isn't it? Like, oh, how are we going to inspire the lads? Ed Sheeran. Like, come on.
My favourite part of this was I saw a tweet from James Blunt earlier today saying that if England lose on Saturday, he'll be going in to do the post-match performance for them.
Probably would have reacted better to that than Ed Sheeran, to be honest. I guess, the whole team bonding thing. They've been playing a lot of cricket in training as well, and just trying to find ways of loosening them up. I think they all know they've been underperforming. But anything but
football.
Anything but playing football. And anything but Ed Sheeran as well.
I mean, in the spirit of Ed Sheeran, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but Gareth Southgate, he hasn't been perfect. He exhibits some bad habits with his selections, but maybe he shouldn't rely so heavily on the A team. Maybe he should make a few changes. I mean, he's going to have to now with Mark Gahey missing out on the next game. So,
can we ask how long you spent in your pre-pod notes writing down those references?
So he's been doing all day at work. My word. You were reading off a script there, weren't you?
I may have been slightly, but
yeah. I mean, I like it. But
what would you do next? What would you change? Obviously, could be Konza or Gomez, or would you start Palmer?
I would go completely off script. I think what England have been doing has been mind-numbing, and we all know he won't, but everyone's screaming for him to, in quotation marks, take the handbrake off. Go free at the back, play two wing backs higher up, and just have a go at a team. Like, Switzerland are going to come at you like probably no team has come at England before. Well, apart from the fact that when they sit back and allow them to, Switzerland are going to actively press them quite high up, and there's going to be so much space behind them that I think you almost need to throw a spanner in the works and just go for it. Because let's be honest, if you go out at this stage of the tournament, everyone's going to be like, well, we probably should have gone out the round before anyway. And if not, like, you could really go and put in a dominant performance and sort of lay down a marker going into the latter stages of the competition that we are here and like, we can mix it up. We can play different styles when need to. Because I fear that if England go out against Switzerland and go 1-0 up playing either Dunk or escape me who the other centre-back that they've
Gomez, Konza, Stones.
Konza. Yeah, if they play over Konza or Dunk at the back and they go 1-0 up, Switzerland have got more attacking prowess than some of these other teams they've played. I think they could really struggle.
It's interesting. I think taking off the handbrake is definitely what everyone wants to see. I can't see Southgate moving too far away from the system he's been using throughout the whole tournament. To be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing a three at the back, but I think as soon as that team news drops, fans will just go, "What? We're playing five at the back?" I do think England look better in a 3 and a 5 under Southgate, but I think he'll stick with a 4. It makes sense just to put Konza straight in, to be honest. Forget he job done. Probably Trippier left back again. They all trained today, all 26 players. John Stones had some strapping on his knee, but I think it will be him and Konza at centre back. I think Trippier starts at left back. Midfield seems fine. Mainu and Rice. Mainu's absolutely world class. I love him. I think he's actually key for helping England progress up the pitch. So I keep him and Rice in. I think so this is where it gets tricky. Is Saka, he's had good moments at the tournament, but he's been snatching at chances and snatching at crosses a little bit. And I do think he has been kind of double marked and really pushed onto that touchline, really struggling to actually, make an impact on the game. So do you put Palmer in ahead of him? It's a big decision there because you're not going to put Palmer over on the left. So there's a decision there to be made. I think he'll probably start Saka and keep Palmer on the bench. Bellingham, I think, starts in the 10. I'd bring in an actual left winger, so Anthony Gordon, over Foden, just to have that natural width. I think it's really hurt in England where they're not having someone stretching that defence. It's been a big thing. Harry Kane's got it in the neck a lot this tournament for dropping really, really deep and not spinning and turning defensive. People seem to forget he's not really done that his whole career, to be honest. That's not really Harry Kane. He's not one to play on the shoulder and then use like searing pace to get in behind. He needs runners off him. So someone like Anthony Gordon, I think, will offer that just to stretch, pull defenders away from him. And then maybe England find a bit of joy that way. But I can't see him drastically, ripping up the script, to be honest, unfortunately. I think it will be another quite slow, plodding performance. I just think we'll see a little bit more attacking impetus if we change that problem we've got a left wing.
I don't think it's as straightforward as Konza coming in for Gay either, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dunk is a left-footed left centre-back, whereas Konza's a right-footed centre-back, and Southgate has got a real preference of going for a left-footer in that position. So it really wouldn't surprise me if Lewis Dunk comes in ahead of...
There's no way. I can promise you there's no way Dunk starts. No chance. I don't... plays for Brighton. He's now my local club. I'm not going to rip into him unnecessarily. I think he's a good defender, but his last performances for England have been pretty shoddy. He's lucky to get in the squad, full stop. I can't ever see him starting, to be honest. And also, I think pace. It's got a lack of pace on the turn. You can get that exploited quite quickly by Breland Bolo running off the shoulder, for example. So need to be careful. I think Konza for the extra pace, good in the air, good all-round package. Can also play out on the left as well, handily. Fullback. I think he'll probably get the nod, would be my guess.
So we're all in agreement then that it's definitely coming home. Beyond the...
I don't think anyone said that.
But where's home?
Well, exactly. Beyond the Euros, it's kind of crazy to think that the pre-season games for clubs are actually not that far away now.
Let me sleep.
Never ending. I was supposed to be going next Tuesday to Stevenage v Norwich, but the second time this year I've bought a ticket to a Stevenage game. I've literally got the ticket looking at me now, and it's been cancelled today for various reasons. But
a real blow.
Yeah, so that's the world is telling me not to go to Stevenage, which is probably quite kind.
Everyone would tell you that, to be honest. No offense to Stevenage, but
so for me, Boreham Wood v Arsenal under-21s will be my first of the new pre-season.
Are you there for work or there for pleasure?
It's both, of course. Absolutely,
of course. Because they're the same thing, and you've got to say that, obviously.
Todd, I think you've got a pre-season game lined up shortly, haven't you?
I have, yeah. So stopping short of me jumping off to the US to either go and watch Dortmund or Bournemouth play pre-season. My first game will be with my local club, which will be AFC Bournemouth playing Rayo Vallecano, Manager Iriola's old club. And that's actually a month today, so 3rd of August. So I'm at Poole Town before that, which is...
Who?
Exactly.
We've seen the flags at the Euros, plenty of Poole Town.
Local,
We have, yeah, that's true.
That's true. So yeah,
Very true.
I'm sure as this pod progresses, and our non-league correspondent Matt Reeds joins us, you'll hear much more about Poole Town. But they're playing Dorking Wanderers on this coming Saturday. So yeah, I believe I'm popping down to cast my eyes over that.
Well, I'm sure we'll be talking to Matt about this at some point in the future. But he's the kit man at Poole Town, is that right? And
He is, yes.
yeah, last season away to Chesham United, he got a yellow card, a bit of a disciplinary record.
Were you there to witness that, Steve? Or?
Well, I'd left the game at half time, so no. It was that entertaining.
Shocking.
It's amazing I can sit through these England games, really. But obviously, since then, Rishi Sunak has kind of upstaged him and stolen the headlines at Chesham United for his football skills there. So, yeah, we'll have to get Matt on and ask him all about that.
Ask about Rishi Sunak or his yellow card.
Was it his only yellow card of the season? Or he get a few more?
I think he only got one.
Yeah, it was just the one.
He put it in our group chat, and I was absolutely stunned that he got it, but also pleased. I was proud of him. You know, you show a bit of needle sometimes. Even if you're a kit man, you've got to be mouthy and you've got to have your legs out. Done. That's it. You don't have to be good at washing kit. Just those are the two prerequisites.
No, when I used to play football, like we were supposed to kind of take it in turns to wash the kit, like as the players, and which obviously meant that just a few of you ended up doing it loads more than everyone else. But like, it never seemed like it needed to be a job for a specific person. But Matt will disagree, no doubt.
I don't want to discredit him here, but I'm going to out him on the fact that actually he doesn't wash the kit. There is another member of the Poole Town kit team that washes the kit specifically. So
what does he do? Does he just put it on the pegs or fold it up?
Essentially deals with player requests on match day, sorting out the kit, packing it all up, ready to be washed, and then he hands it over to I believe her name's Barbie, who takes care of the kit wash itself.
Right, Chesham United, he was just stood on the touchline talking to me. So yeah, very, very busy man.
Well, he's not going to give out tactics, is he, during the game?
I don't want
to. Why do kit men sit in the dugout on games? Because I've seen him in the dugout celebrating goals. Why is he there?
Player requests. So I've seen him be requested to go and get a player's tracksuit bottoms from the changing room, or hand out some sock tape whilst on the bench for substitutes getting ready. So yeah, he's essentially there to cater to the players' needs during in game.
Well, there we go. I didn't know.
I don't want to throw him under the bus too much because I'll be at his place this weekend watching England. Todd, we're going to watch Germany. At yours, hopefully. Dan, where are you? Where are you going to watch England this weekend?
At home, because I finish work at 5, so I will be on my couch watching it. Yeah, this whole tournament, I've been busy with work and stuff, so I haven't really been able to get out to a pub or anything to watch it. Unlike every other tournament, but you know, if I'm watching us win it, sat on my couch, I'm not going to be fussed. It's just all about the tournament, isn't it? Really. So yeah, I'm gutted I can't be there, but most of my work comes to the weekends. So there we go.
Not going to be throwing your beer over bran and toe beans?
I might just be shouting a lot, to be honest. So there we go. Yeah, he seems to be used to the shouting already. I do try and tone it down a bit. So when Bellingham scored his goal, I like ran around the flat, but I didn't scream. It was like silent screaming. It was like internalized.
Ralph Hasenhüttl celebration.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I was screaming really loudly in my head, but in person it was just silent, just running around the place. But he seemed okay with it, to be honest. And try not to freak him out because he's only a little baby. I didn't think he'd come in, but
I just let out a massive sigh when Jude Bellingham equalised.
I bet you did, yeah. I mean, I said like something in the chat. We won't score in a month of Sundays or something, and then literally 2 minutes later got the equaliser from absolutely nowhere. But that's the beauty of football. You just never know how it's going to go. Like I keep saying, it takes a second to score a goal. It sounds really stupid, but Like it can change like the flip of a coin. That's why everyone loves it. I just hope this weekend is a lot more easy on the eye and not stressful. Hopefully it won't be as bad.
You never know how it's going to go. Dan absolutely spitting bars here today.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Right.
Get me on the logo.
Is there okay? We'll see what we can do on that front. We might also get our friend Nags in. I mean, we probably won't because he lives in a different time zone, but his own time.
Next standard time, or whatever he called it. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there
Did
any
he
more,
even agree
any
to
more?
come on?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, brilliant.
I just think he just has selective viewing in that group chat.
Yeah, I thought I did, but I agreed to do this. So maybe he's just. Well, then again, he's always in a different country as well, so that doesn't help. He's literally in a different time zone. He's in his own time zone and the country's time zone as well. So if maybe we'll get him on once to rant about Arsenal and how Arteta is the best thing since sliced bread, and then they'll just end the call, and that'll be it. So much to look forward to. Come back for the next one.
Please come back. And on that note, thank you for listening to the first episode. Hope you've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed presenting it. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you again next time.
Been a pleasure. Take care.
See you soon.